worked in the SaaS and cloud and mobile space for over 30 years now. He is currently the EVP of Product Development at Pro Unlimited, and their solution Wand has consistently won awards and analyst recognition from Gartner, Forrester, you name it, most of the large industry awards and recognitions in their space, and specifically around their mobile solutions. And today, Ted is going to share with us some of the secrets that went behind building such a successful mobile application. Over to you, Ted.
Great. Thank you, Nick. Hi, everyone. Yes, this is Ted Sergott. I tend to get excited and passionate about my product, so hopefully that'll come through the phone today. So as Nick said, I have been building enterprise proprietary software in Silicon Valley for 30 years. And I have to tell you, folks, the most important thing is user experience. And I'm going to be talking a lot about that today. And just that term, what does user experience mean? It's user-friendly? That's not the answer. Intuitive? What does that mean? So I'm going to uncover that a little bit and explain the science behind the art of user experience. So let's mention a couple things now. It should be recognition, not recall. You shouldn't have to remember how to use the app. When you look at it, it should be that intuitive on what to do. It should be action-driven. If I have something to do, tell me exactly what I need to do. It needs to be simple, efficient. Get in and get out are key things we need. And the last thing I'll mention, it's not on here, is quality. Quality is so important. So yes, you need a great experience, but then you also must have great quality. Okay, so the mobile apps I'm going to talk to you today are part of the Wand VMS platform, which is wholly owned by Pro Unlimited. Now, the Wand VMS platform is a global system that allows you to source, manage, and pay your contingent workforce. Now, if you are procurement people, it's also called indirect services or indirect spend. And when I say contingent labor, I mean every non-FTE resource, whether it's staff aug through a staffing agency, whether it's SOW or project-based vendors, whether you're leveraging talent networks, whether they're independent contractors, freelancers, or consultants, the Wand platform will allow you to hire and manage them. And just a simple example, you guys, so let's say you're a manager, a hiring manager at a hot global tech company, and you need a Java engineer, for example, or a mobile developer. Imagine that. Well, you can just log into Wand, create the requisition, route it for approval, choose what staffing companies you want to use, push a button, goes out to all the candidates, including the freelancers. They submit all the resumes, portfolio through the platform. You do the candidate comparison, choose who you want to hire. Then ultimately that consultant will enter the time in the system, and then we do the review, the payment, and the billing of that. Okay, then so today, as Nick said, you can see the agenda here, and the thing that's most important is just the name of the webinar, How to Build a 5-Star B2B Mobile App. I'm going to walk you through it step by step. It is not easy, requires software development expertise, but I am going to give you the blueprint and ask you to how to build a 5-star B2B mobile app. And the one thing I will point out on the agenda there, the ROI for mobile app development. I think you definitely want to stay through the webinar to hear those pieces. And the other thing I'll just make a comment is that these best practices can be applied not only to building a mobile app, but just be building world-class software as well. Okay, so where did we start? So when I joined Pro Unlimited almost 6 years ago and became the product owner of Wand, I inherited a very clunky, monolithic, hacked-together platform that was designed by super users, subject matter experts, functional experts. What a disaster. So if your people designing your software are functional experts, I'll say it again, what a disaster. You need software design experts. And let me give you a quick analogy here on why a functional expert is not qualified to be a designer unless they went to design training. I'm sure most people on the phone here have bought a car, so we all could say that we know how to buy a car. We've driven cars, whether it's a minivan or a sports car, we know how to drive a car. That does not mean we're qualified to design the next car. And so just like software development, and especially mobile apps, you need to have experts in software development. So what I need to do is go out and bring in UX designers, what I did. The other thing, this designing the software, it is a science. You need specific expertise. It has its own language, its own best practices. Now, when I joined, I didn't have those people in-house, so I did partner with a boutique design firm, brought them in-house, and then once we got some experience, I went out and hired those people, and now they're full-time. Now, the other thing is we wanted a differentiator at Pro because we were so far behind our competition. And there's so many areas we had to play catch-up, but just partnering with the CEO and the board and say, well, hey, we can't just catch up to our competitors. Let's play leapfrog. Let's do something that no one else in our industry has done. So we knew we wanted user experience, and then we knew we wanted to leapfrog our competition, which was by doing a mobile app. We looked at our competitors, and none of them had a very good mobile app. Okay? So then once we made the decision, to build a mobile app, now what? What features, what functions? Within the WAN platform, there's literally several hundred different screens. So what we did extensive user research. We not only ghosted and watched the people using the application, we surveyed, we interviewed them. We found out, at least for our industry, the three things that hiring managers do most often in WAN would be to create a rec, review talent, and then approve time and expense. And so we knew that these are the things they most likely would do. And then we layered in, what are things that people would most likely do when they're mobile? And by mobile, we mean in a meeting, not at their desk. Whether it's on a plane, working from home, in a meeting, what are those basic functions? Then we took all that down. We came up with what we believe the priority list was, went back to our user community, asked them for feedback. Then we prioritized and came up with our minimal viable product. And the third thing I'll mention, it's not on the slide here, which is really important, is that to be market-driven. Even though I made all those comments about user research and your clients, I strongly recommend you be market-driven. That means don't expect the clients to tell you what your best new feature function is. They certainly should have input into that, but you should look at the market across all verticals like we did. We looked at the best software, the best mobile apps, not in our industry, looking at those features and functions and what could we bring to to our enterprise app. The other thing is at the bottom there, making it modular, both function-wise and architecture-wise. So architecturally, the business logic should not be in the presentation layer, especially if you're doing a native app. It needs to be in the back end or in the middle layer, the business layer. And then, feature-wise, if you make a module, it gives you the ability to remove them if they're not successful. And the one example that we have there is everyone wanted and told us, including the analysts, we must have a social login. So that to use this enterprise app at work, you could use your LinkedIn or your Facebook, profile to do that. Well, we deployed that, and not one person used it. So, 9 months later, we removed that social login. So it's just an example of being modular. So this next slide here, you guys, what do B2B users want from a mobile app? Well, I'm here to tell you it's the same thing as what B2C users want. And we've come a long way there. So again, there's that word again, user experience. Well, I'm going to give you another word, and most of you might have heard it if you're in the software space, but your apps now are being crowd approved. What does that mean? They may be in a legacy app or forced to use the app at work in the enterprise, but they're comparing you to the best of that Apple, Samsung, or any other great company out there on what they build. And the day that you can just have some legacy, ERP junk system and tell your users, well, it's horrible, just deal with it, those days are over. And our enterprise clients, these high-tech software companies that use WAN, they care deeply about the user experience. Not only what their managers are doing, they're paying these consultants a lot of money, and they got to compete for these consultants, and they don't want to hear from a consultant that they have to, they're forcing them to use a crappy app. That does not go over well. So certainly crowd approved. We talked about being simple, intuitive, again, recognition, not recall. Tell me what to do. I log in the app, tell me exactly what I need to do next. In addition to that, in the context of action-driven and tell me what to do next, make it contextual. So what that means is, depending what I'm doing, and if there's an action to be done, then let me know that action. And if there's not an action, then it won't appear. So it's a very simple example in our worker app. As soon as you log in, if you have a time card that needs to be submitted, that's the only thing you see. Now, the translation for a consultant is, do you want to get paid? And the answer is, of course they do. So the notification comes up, and boom, they can enter their time card, and off they are. But if they're logging on the app and they don't have a time card to approve, then it's not the first thing that appears. So again, contextual. The fourth one, which you're hearing a lot about, and we've won quite a few awards on this, is consumerization. And this is kind of the first thing I said, is taking the features, the best features that are in B2C, and bringing them to B2B. And I'm talking, sure, all the names you could rattle off, but think of more like an Evite or, Amazon, with all the ratings and feedback and the personalization. Those are great examples of consumerization. And then talking about, having a stable app with great response time. You guys can see the statistics on the left. You can think of yourself. If you're using an app and it's got horrible response time, I'm done. I want out. So it's got to be quick. It's got to be user-friendly, and it's got to be stable. Okay? Okay, stakeholder alignment, very, 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 very critical. So at Pro Unlimited, the first thing I mentioned, the first thing we did, we got executive and board commitment, one, to invest in the WAN platform. Two, we wanted at least one big leapfrog opportunity, call it a key differentiator, and that was mobile. And we looked at all of our competitors, and no one had a good mobile app, so that solidified our discussion. And you certainly want to keep them engaged all the way through. Now, I've been doing software development my whole life, and so having a project management office and those standards and discipline are really great. So certainly giving the executives, PMO updates as you go throughout. But even more important to that, as far as getting, continual buy-in, is build prototypes. So this is a key differentiator, or best practices, frankly, in any software that I build or my teams build. Create a prototype. Hire the people who know how to do that, and don't waste an engineer's time. So when I say prototype, it is not done by engineers. These are done by UX people, by product designers. They can build a prototype and show the stakeholders, the users, they can show engineering almost exactly what it's going to look like. And it gives excitement and it's able to show progress before you actually build the app. And then always go back, and after you deliver something, to reprioritize moving forward. Okay, so this is a really tough one. Tough question I get all the time. But how do you define ROI? Is it 3x? Show me my empirical, data return. Well, I'm here to tell you, at least in most B2B spaces, it's very hard to quantify the details. But I'm going to show you how we quantify it. So at Pro Unlimited, when you buy the WAN VMS platform, you get the whole platform. You get our business intelligence platform. You get our mobile apps for free. So there's no one buying our mobile app. You guys could download it right now, but you can't use it because you don't have an ID and password because you're not a client of ours. So if we don't charge for mobile apps, so then how do you determine the return on investment? Well, I think the first bullet point there, well, in the last bullet point, I'll hit them at the same time. It's about sales. And anybody in sales, you certainly can track lead gen, opportunities, meetings, hits, all these great things. And once we built WAN Mobile, our lead gen went through the roof. So we used to lead with, we're both a services and software company. We used to lead with services. As soon as we built WAN Mobile, we led with WAN Mobile. We can send a little video clip, and then the meetings that improved over time in the lead gen through sales was tremendous. The traffic at our booths at industry conferences went up dramatically when we had WAN Mobile. And so the sales team actually empirically tracked these differentiators, this experience. And then we wanted a differentiator, and we wanted great user experience. Well, how do you measure that? Well, I'll tell you how you measure it. You measure it by the analyst ratings and by the App Store reviews. Again, this is crowd-sourced, crowd-approved. And getting 5-star ratings from the majority of your user in the Android Play Store and in the Apple Store, that means something, not only to how you did, but to the people who would be using your app. I mean, look at our competitors. They have app ratings of 1.3 and swear words misspelled, so they can put them in an app review. If you get things like that, you're not doing well. Analyst ratings. We were rated very poorly with Juan going back 6 years ago. Now we're at the top, and every analyst rates us the highest rating possible for mobile apps. So that is a concrete measure. And again, just to kind of summarize the results from this, our ROI is that our sales team, they now lead with the technology in the mobile apps. We have the highest ranking by all the analysts. We have the highest ratings in the App Store. And also, we have the highest user feedback, highest in the industry. How do we know that? Again, the analysts talk to our clients, and so we know we got that awesome feedback. Okay, I'm going to keep moving here. This one's interesting. This is a little product, really little product marketing here, and combining. Well, great. What are some things that you can do to make your B2B mobile app stand out from the crowd? Well, you need to be able to explain it in business terms is a key thing, and I think that's what the first 2 bullet points there are saying. So great, you got a cool little mobile app. Why should I buy one? Well, I'm going to tell you why. You can do faster decisions and faster transactions. And let me give you 2 real-time, simple examples that I give these examples all the time. And then at several times I've heard people in the crowd talking to clients, that exact thing happened to me. So let's talk about faster decisions. You're looking for that rare Hadoop architect or that chief science officer, and those people are hard to find, as you guys probably well know. Well, if you get a text message or an alert from Juan Mobile telling you that you got that chief scientist is available, and it happens to be a Sunday, or you're on vacation, or you're on the train or the bus or out walking, you can alert on your phone because it's a native app. You don't need to log in. Hey, I got a resume from a chief scientist. You can then log in, you can see the resume right from your phone and schedule an interview right from your phone. That's an example of a faster decision. Faster transaction, here's one of my favorites, is our mobile apps are so robust, and not only can you approve time and expense for consultants, you can approve change orders. So whether you have an IBM or Deloitte or Infosys, and they have 75 engineers whose funds are depleted on Friday, and you have to get a change order approved, and your boss is in Europe and she's on vacation. Well, good luck, except if you had Juan Mobile, she could get an alert on her phone without logging in, just like you get a little text message. Hey, you need to approve this change order for Infosys. She logs on, 2 clicks of the phone, approves the change order for Infosys, and those 75 engineers go back to work the next day. So just another great example of faster transactions. And then also just a couple things in our industry. We wanted to find a couple things that we do better than our competitors, and that the one I just mentioned is none of our competitors can approve change orders and SOW projects on their phone. It's just a generic time expense. So we added that. We gave folks the ability to do feedback and ratings right from their phone, which is really well received. But the biggest thing you can do is to go native. And we have a whole slide on this, and then I cannot emphasize this enough, you guys. And depending on who you talk to, especially some of the bloggers out there who've never built a mobile app in their life, they're going to disagree with me. Or let me rephrase it. I'm going to disagree with them pretty strongly. There is no comparison between a native app and a hybrid or a responsive website. So let me first define what a native app is. Okay, so you are coding, developing the mobile apps in the language of the device, right? So for Apple's wonderful iPhone, this is using Objective-C and Swift, the iOS operating system, and all the wonderful Android devices, it's using Java. And those are 2 different code bases. So if you think about it, that is 2 additional code bases that I need to support. So I have my mobile web, I have my website, which you can use the mobile phone if you wanted to. But then now I have a new code base for the Apple products and a new code base for the Java products. So why would I do that? Well, the beauty of it is you can leverage the device. So anything that the brilliant people at Apple or Samsung come up with, I can use. It's like the Apple is my engineering team. It's like Samsung is one of my engineering teams. And when you do it native, just so we're clear, there's a separate code bases, but it's truly omni-channel. This is real time. There is no syncing. There is no downloading. Even though they're native apps, it's all real time, and it should be, sub-second or very close to that. And I'm going to mention the things on here, and frankly, each one of these on here could be its own bullet point because it's that important. The swiping and tapping, you touch the glass. What you see is what you get. The buttons are on the glass. You can pinch and, zoom in if you want to, but you're not required. The date pickers, again, anything that Apple comes up with, you can use. Voice recognition. So the day I rolled out a text box in WAN Mobile was the day you could use Siri. There's no API required. It just works. You talk to Siri and it fills up your text box. The built-in camera. I didn't have to build the software to run the camera. I interface with it, and now our consultants can use the camera to take photos, scanning their receipts, and submit them right through the phone. You can't do any of that with a mobile website. The notifications, I already told you guys how important that is. You get notifications without logging in, right? You have a mobile website. If you don't log in, you'll never, ever get them. SSO, numerous solutions with a single sign-on. I won't mention them all, but, Touch ID. We have some of our top clients. They want to use their own MDM, so we have a WAN mobile version that's just in their internal Apple store. So there's many ways to do that. And the last one, well, it's not the last one, but it's on there, is wearable apps. So the amount of time and the cost it took to build our Apple Watch app, I may be exaggerating. I think it was 1/1000th of the cost. I mean, it was exponentially cheaper because it's the same code base and it's just a subset of the code. So I have to say the cheapest thing I ever built in the last 5 years was a watch app because I did it native. If you had a mobile website, you couldn't even build a watch app. Okay. But I'll talk about more about native when we get to RoboSoft. Okay, then how to prioritize development, what tools to use. Certainly you want to use analytics, and we certainly track every click, what page people goes to, and so on and so forth. But it is B2B, you guys, so we don't do A and B testing, certainly not in production. We would do that with prototypes and things like that. Also extensive user feedback. You can do that within the app. We also do surveys. We also do a customer advisory board where we take our top clients, the client sponsors from our top clients, we take them to a remote location, and we go through a mobile roadmap, which is completely separate and in addition to the overall WAN mobile app roadmap. Again, the ratings, they mean something. If you're not getting good ratings, you need to look at that. The analysts as well. And then the one thing I would just say, just as the roadmap, is just continually to revisit the roadmap and discuss with your stakeholders. I'm going to give you a great example that everybody told me that we should do, and actually we thought we needed to do it, which is create a request. So we would say, well, okay, sure, that's maybe the top thing, like you're creating a whole new job description. Would you really do that from your phone? Okay, maybe not, but the analyst said it was a must-have. Our client said it was a must-have, and okay, we need to do it. Well, it was a lot of work, and my product designers really thought about it, and Ted, this, we actually see it as a nice-to-have. Okay, we'll do it, phase 2, right? And it was planned to do it. We just didn't want to get it in, and we're doing so many feature functions already. So we rolled it out without create request. What was missing? Everyone said create request. 6 months later, we checked in, with our users. Nobody wanted it. A year later, checked in. Nobody wanted it. It's not even on our roadmap today. On our iPad app, yep, you can copy from previous, but no one wanted it. And we flat out told the analysts still asking for it. Well, guess what, analysts? Nobody wants it. So they stopped asking. So that's a great example where this is something that we were planning on building. We keep checking in, and then it made sense. And it's not the top feature function. And I also mentioned on something we did roll out, the social login thing with Facebook and LinkedIn. No one used it, and so we removed it. Okay, so you guys, up to this point, we kind of discussed, some of the vision going into creating a mobile app. Now we're going to get into actually, how we did it, going through the vendor selection, what I heard about the native, hybrid, the responsiveness, a little bit on how we managed the project, and then getting into the results and best practices. Okay, vendor selection. So, check my network, talk to folks, got some references, including partners that I already partnered with, invited the top 4 to bid on providing a new mobile solution. We didn't do a formal RFP. We did a soft RFP. We sent requirements, a document, had multiple meetings with them, quickly narrowed to 2, including obviously one which was RoboSoft. And even though myself personally and my team, we had great engineering expertise and a lot of software development expertise, we did not have a lot of mobile expertise, and we also did not have a lot of user experience expertise at the time. So we wanted someone who could recommend, give us insights, education, challenge our thinking. If I make a wrong assumption, well, respectfully disagree with me. I'm willing to learn here. So I really wanted that. And we wanted, someone with experience, not someone who can just talk to a good game. Mobile apps went out for a while now, going back a few years ago. So what 5-star apps do you have? What references do you have? And the goal here was not to be a one-hit wonder. This was not going to be a one-time investment in mobile and shove it on the shelf. We were making a continued long-term investment in the product. We wanted a long-term partner, not a vendor, a long-term partner who we could partner with as we move forward. Okay, so interesting, each, of the 4, 3 out of the 4 strongly recommended that we do a responsive, website, or at least a hybrid, right? And the advantage of that and the reasons that they were recommending, well, you could save a lot of money in 2 areas. One, it's not a separate code base, so that's intuitive, that would be a lot cheaper. And less expensive to maintain, because if you think about it, if you get a bug, well, then you got to fix the bug on your web app, and then maybe you got to fix another bug in the Apple code, and maybe the same bug you got to fix in the Java code for the Android. So on the surface, it does seem like it would be more costly to maintain. And then came RoboSoft. And RoboSoft is, Ted, we can build you a mobile website. We can build you a hybrid app. And again, a hybrid where maybe the login page and maybe a couple bare features are native, but the majority of the app is mobile, is what hybrid stands for. And they said, Ted, you want to go native? And I'm like, well, I go native. Well, let me reiterate to you, Ted, your goals. You wanted a differentiator, and you wanted to focus on user experience. And if those are your goals, then you have to go native. And they're the only ones telling me that. The bloggers weren't, the 3 other vendors weren't. They're like, go native. And they said, because if you don't, version 1 will be hybrid, and version 2 will be native. And my favorite quote is actually from the CEO of RoboSoft, who told me this in the final days before my decision, Rohit. He goes, Ted, responsive is not cheaper. Because after you rewrite it in native, it actually costs more, and you delayed your roadmap by 2 years. And then what we found out, it does cost more to do native. It certainly is not double, and it's slightly iterative because if you do it correctly, it's just a presentation layer you're doing on mobile, and all the hardcore business logic is on the back end. So very critical. And we went with RoboSoft's recommendation, and that's why we chose them. And we went with the native apps, and so glad we did. Okay, so the mobile development lifecycle. I'm going to go through this quickly, you guys. So certainly, highly recommend that you develop if you're going to do this for a living. If you're going to invest and continue to invest in your mobile apps, I strongly recommend you do the UX and UI design in-house. Just as a reminder, when I joined Pro, my designers were super users, not software designers. And so I hired a boutique firm here in Silicon Valley who helped me out getting the first iterative version I then hired great UX people in the Valley here, brought them in-house, and now my design is 100% in-house. Partnered with a great partner with Robosoft. But all the back-end business logic tier is 100% in-house engineering staff. And I just see Robosoft as just an extension of my engineering team, and we have a great partner with them. We talked about the user research. We did start with doing iOS and Android as separate sequential development cycles. But in hindsight, and this is also the thing, one thing I would do differently looking back, which we do now, is even though they're the same different code bases, you're better off doing it at the same time. Because if you think about it, the requirements are the same, right? The presentation, the buttons and stuff may be slightly different, but the actual business requirements are the same. Look at QA testing. Again, the functionality is the same, slight little nuances between Android and iOS. But again, so now for the efficiency of requirements and QA, we do them at the same time. And then just as a great partner, I don't call it QA, but Robosoft has QA. So they have an engineering team. They also have a QA team, which is embedded with their engineering team, which really does extensive unit testing and really, my term, an older term, kind of the unit integration testing. But then in addition to that, my in-house, well, it's offshore too, I should say, but in-house managed QA team, we did the full QA, which came after Robosoft's QA. And I mentioned quality here because it's really, really important when you're doing mobile apps, native mobile apps, because you do not have full control of releasing them into production, which is very different than a SaaS cloud website, right? I want to fix a bug, and theory I can do it anytime I want. If you know what you're doing, you can do it without disrupting the users. But to go in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, they need to approve it. So you need to submit it. They do some very, very simple testing. Then they approve it. Then it's live. So if you have a bug, you got to notify Apple. They need to test it again and do it. So you don't have full control. So you don't want to throw crap out there. You want to make sure there's extensive QA. And then we do user acceptance testing, but in this here, if it's B2B, if it's a brand huge new release, we have our clients may log in, but that's more so they know what's coming. The hardcore UAT, a lot of it is done by our product managers, just to make sure it works on how it was intended. Okay. So as you can see here, we continue to invest in WAN Mobile and partner with Robosoft. They're an active partner with us. And I mean, you guys, you can see everything that we've done, but I'll tell you what's coming out just this month. We have a new version of our highest rated top award-winning manager app for WAN is coming out this month. And I'll highlight some things we're bringing to it. So we're completely refreshing our UX. Don't want to rest on our laurels. So taking advantage of a lot of new techniques that are out there. We also added great new features for our talent network to the mobile device. And we recently re-architected, rebuilt our interview scheduling functionality, which is a huge feature, when you're trying to hire and interview consultants. And we add a lot of best practices. We made it bi-directional. So all those great features are coming to the WAN Mobile actually this month. So just a continued investment in the platform. Okay, and then the results speak for themselves, and we just have a few. Actually, some of the most recent awards aren't even up there, but the one that we're most proud of is, so yes, we got the Gartner Cool Vendor Award. That was a couple years old for our mobile apps, but just a month ago, Gartner rated us #1 in the world, 4th ranked, for the top software to manage contingent labor. And one of the primary reasons was our mobile apps. The Forrester Wave, all public information, just came out just a month ago, and we're rated as a leader, and we have the highest rating possible for our mobile apps. In both Stevie and the CEO Business Awards, we won gold and silver awards, again, for our mobile apps. We have been highest rated since launch. And if you think of, and I'll just give you guys a tip too on how do you manage the ratings in your Apple Store, right? Because if you think about it, your competitors could go in there and slam you, and you really don't have a recourse. I don't know. In the end, I don't know how many people would really do that. It certainly wouldn't be a big thing. But like our app on mobile, if some person downloads it, not even knowing who we are or what we are, because they want to buy some expense app and they can't use it, they'll trash us in the Apple Store, which has happened, by the way. And so we get this 1-star rating by someone who's not even a client, who can't even use our app, but they decide to rate us anyway. So we do have product marketing people. We maintain that. We watch it. We'll do a campaign meaning at a particular client when you use the app. If you like it, rate us. We're adding actually not this month, but in a couple months, technology right within the app. So if you like something, a feature that you completed, they'll ask you right there, hey, it'd be a great time to go ahead and rate us in the Apple Store. You got to be careful with that because this is a B2B app, and our clients are really against any kind of promotion or advertising like that. So it has to be very, very subtle. We already talked about our competitors and their horrible ratings and rankings. And the last thing, as I mentioned in the last slide, is that we're just going to continue to innovate and enhance our mobile apps. You know, we are the leader in our space, and we want to maintain that. You can see there at the bottom, we're doing about 3 to 4 large releases a year for both iOS and Android. And I would say it's been just a great partnership with RoboSoft. I think we're on our 4th year. Kind of hard to believe, but you know, a great product. And I'll mention something I mentioned before. Another thing that RoboSoft brings to us is not only doing user surveys and doing the CAB and talking to our users, but because a company like RoboSoft develops so many mobile apps, they have so many 5-star ratings apps. They're looking at what's coming out with iOS. They're looking at what's coming out the next features of Android, and they'll bring to me, hey Ted, there's this new cool little feature coming out in iOS. What do you guys think? And then we take that feedback and we helps us prioritize and decide what to do as well. So best practice summary here. I want to make sure we get to a few questions if we can. So partner with experienced experts, especially if you haven't done it before. I strongly recommend RoboSoft. Can't say enough about 100% native apps, especially if it's focused on a differentiator or user experience. Do the native app, do the user research. Strongly recommend it. Again, I would recommend doing the design in-house. If you don't have the expertise, you can hire a firm and then bring it in later. And then just as a recommendation, I would not support more than 2 versions of your native apps because that's just about, talk to your QA manager and he or she will love you if you only support 2 versions of the native app. And then while it is more expensive, it's not even close to being duplicative in the cost. Again, if you keep the business logic on the back end, you're really making just presentation changes to those other code bases. And without a doubt, just a much better user experience. And I'll just make a comment here. And if you look at a lot of the great websites out there, and I'll mention too, like Facebook and LinkedIn, you know what? Both those were written as responsive websites, and they got horrible ratings. And of course, now they're 100% native. Just like Juan, although we were fortunate enough that we talked to RoboSoft, so I didn't have to do that mistake. I went from native from the very beginning. And, we didn't touch on it, but native apps are 1,000 times, I don't want to exaggerate, maybe 10,000, but much, much more secure because it is not a website. Websites are far easier to hack into. Our clients care deeply about security within mobile app, including with SSO. It is so much more secure. And not only that, the best practices we have, we actually hired a firm called White Hat, and we give them our mobile source code. And they hack it up, and we fix it before we go live. And so just being native makes it much more secure. Okay, so those are the best practices. Before we do get into questions, I'll do a small plug, kind of a quick overview of Pro Unlimited. So I work for Pro Unlimited. It's the most phenomenal company I've ever worked for in my life. We're very unique and special. What I mean by that, in the contingent labor industry, we are the only ones who are great at services, MSP, and great at software, at WAND. We have many competitors who are good at services or good at software, But again, we're the only one who, we believe we're great at both. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Nick to say a minute about RoboSoft.
First of all, thanks a lot, Ted, for delivering such a concise package of really actionable information in the B2B space for anyone who's, planning or currently even, working on a B2B mobile app. So thanks a lot for that. And thanks for the kind words about RoboSoft as well. We're glad to be working with you having your repeat business for such a long time, and look forward to a longer relationship as well. And just a little bit about RoboSoft, for those who aren't aware about us, we've been in this business for over 20 years. And on mobile specifically, we've been developing mobile products ever since the birth of the App Store in 2008. And we have developed over 1,500 apps today, with over 500 million downloads, and several of them have won various awards and recognitions. And we've had the privilege of working with US as well as clients from all over the world, including, of course, Pro Unlimited, as well as other companies like McDonald's, Walmart, and others. And you can check us out at www.robosoftin.com for more info and to contact us. So with that, we conclude the main webinar session, and I'd like to open up the floor for any questions and answers, or any questions that you might have as a webinar attendee. Please feel free to type it in. There is a Q&A section on the webinar, and if you type in your question there, it'll come to our attention. First, to begin with, Ted, I'd just like to, a couple of quick questions come to mind through this presentation, which I want to run by you. One is, having known what you know now, would you have done anything differently with this, with the benefit of hindsight? Would you have done anything differently?
Yes, great question, Nick, and it's actually it's always great whenever you build software after it's over to do a retrospective and look back and just see what you did well, what could be done better. I would say this: if you're new to mobile, but also new to really the science behind user experience, is I would track and have a project manager track the individual deliverables within product design. And what I mean by that is, don't just say, okay, have a task be designed. So certainly, we use agile methodology, but don't rely on that product designer to manage and identify all those different tasks and where they're at. So what I mean is, requirements are just requirements. Your user experience design is a separate task. Your visual design is a separate task. So for each screen, there's 3 separate product management from a very generic perspective. There's the requirements, the user experience design, and the visual design. And when we first did it, we tracked that at one task. Very hard, because it's not one task. And especially if you have true experts, that's 3 different people. You're going to track one task that has 3 different people do it. So in hindsight, in which we do now, we track each one of those deliverables within you, because you know then exactly where you are. Because engineering can start coding if the user experience and the requirements are done, even though the visual design is not done, they can code away. And it's only, it needs to be done before they're done coding. But that's the one thing I would do differently, Nick.
Great. Thanks.
Okay.
Sure. And then one other question that I had is that, with your experience working with companies like us, companies like RoboSoft that follow a global delivery model, and other companies may not have had that experience, and there are certain apprehensions that they may have about, communications, time zone challenges based upon hearsay. What do you have to say that? How did you address those?
Yeah, great. Another great question. So I'll start out. Hey, anybody in software development knows it's a global world out there. I'll take the talent wherever I can get it. I got extensive folks in Silicon Valley here in California. I got folks on the East Coast. I got multiple teams in India. I got folks in Eastern Europe. So definitely global development and some of my best practices there, and specifically with Robosoft, is that when you're doing the upfront design, you need to bring, the tech leads, the designers, in this case, if they're coming from India, bring them to your office, have them work with the team for a couple months, get that great collaboration, so that way when they go back to their own time zone, they kind of already know the personalities. It's just much easier to work with. And then I'll just make some other just, generic best practices as well. A lot of times it's great if you have the tech leads actually in your office, so that way they can help manage the folks offshore. Another thing, if you're looking at global development, if you're doing development in one part of the world, you can do QA in another part of the world. So that way, basically, they code during the day, and the people on the other side of the world, they do QA during the day, which is technically at night. So it's basically round-the-clock development. So those are some of the best practices I'd recommend, Nick.
That's great. Thanks. Okay, and then we have another question from the audience. And this is drilled down on your stakeholder alignment topic. In Radu Stoika, he's asked this question: how do you get stakeholder alignment for mobile products or even a digital project in the B2B world? As you may know, B2B in general, unlike your company, is 10 years behind the B2C world. Do you have any advice on how to get stakeholders to support and help with digital initiatives?
Yes. Great question. I did mention, I'm going to repeat it again, and I'll tell you what I did, and then, I don't know if you guys have the same scenario or not, but so the key thing is you need to get a champion, you need to get a stakeholder, and I'll tell you about like my company. So I quickly synced up with the CEO and the head of sales versus the head of client services, because our clients were not asking for a mobile app. Maybe you guys in the same space. It's like, Ted, can you just fix reporting? This is going way back when we were reporting, wasn't that good. Now we have great reporting. Or fix this, or can you build this? No one asked for a mobile app. We built it anyway. Why do we do that? Because we strategized with the CEO, the key stakeholder, and the head of sales. Hey, I can't just play catch up. We needed a key differentiator to stand out from the crowd, and looking at all of the metrics in the mobile workforce, and there's a gazillion statistics out there. I didn't bring them up. We made the decision to do the mobile app. And at first, our clients, they're okay, but but we got buy-off from the CEO, the head of sales, and then once the CEO makes the decision, everyone else fell in line with that, and then we got that alignment, and then to build excitement. And we did it right. The first iteration, it took longer than we first thought, but we focused on the user experience, focused on the quality. And I got to tell you, once we got those incredible ratings by the analysts, by the clients, and the clients love us, now mobile's our favorite. And guess what? It was all their idea, right? The clients wanted it, the head of client services wanted it. So in hindsight, everybody wanted it, but no, they didn't. It was the head of product, the CEO, and the head of sales getting an alignment and making that tough decision.
That's great. That's a great insight. Thanks. And Chris Horton says, not a question, but refreshing to hear the native recommendations. We are in the process of rewriting our hybrid apps in native as well. So that's a good observation. And Codrin Arsene says, if you're going the native route, would you build an iOS app first, Android first, or would you do both at the same time? What are the trade-offs from a business perspective between these different options?
Yes, great question. I got a great answer for you. So it depends where you are in the world. So I'll focus on the United States first, and then I'll do global. So I think I did mention earlier that now we do them both together. But certainly I would not do that if you're starting from scratch, because you got to build one. So, and I'm quoting the statistics, and I'm really close on these percentages here. But I believe still today the corporate market is 85% Apple. Mm-hmm. So in the United States, it's about 85% iPhone. Now, if you go to the consumer world, I think it's about the exact opposite. Even maybe in the United, well, maybe not quite so well, but globally, Android is a much higher percentage in the corporate world. And in the consumer world, I don't know if it's 50-50 or slightly more Android in the U.S. So just based on the dominance of Apple in the United States, and even though we have a lot of global clients, our largest clients are U.S.-based global clients. We did Apple first, and that went really well. And then the few people that had Android, including a couple of Android makers or clients of ours, I won't mention their names, they really looked forward to Android, and then we did Android second.
Okay, great.
Great. Other questions?
Yeah, just one of the other questions is, so what are your recommendations for mobile security? I'm sure, security is a big concern. We've heard about all these worm and virus and ransomware attacks all the time. What are your, how do you think about security?
Yes, and I'll even tell you this. So you guys can probably guess, but some of the largest security companies in Silicon Valley are our clients, and they're not the tough ones, right? So some of the social network and the high-tech companies are actually a little more, believe it or not, secure than security companies, but the ones that are harder than that, let's talk about Manhattan financial firms. They're really, really hard on security. So a lot of our clients, we have to get certified every year. My security guy's got to fly to their conference. Security is a huge deal, and if you go native, by definition, it's going to be more secure. So basically, never ever store the password on the device. And then what we did, I'll mention again, is we did hire white hat security. Even though I have a phenomenal engineering team, we hired these human hackers. Yes, we do penetration tests and all that kind of stuff. We gave them our source code, and they did some horrible things to it. And then we got on phone calls with them, and what about this, what about that, and we corrected all that. We got a really robust mobile app, secure mobile app. I'll give you a couple more other best practices. You need to have a data sheet at the ready, especially if you have a new client. There's going to be someone, is mobile secure, because maybe they don't know any better. Well, then you got that one page where you can send to them immediately, and they can forward it on to anybody else. With new clients, a lot of times we talk to their security folks ahead of time, and there's multiple ways, whether you do single sign-on, and again, I'll mention again, we had a couple clients that they really wanted, to have an MDM, a mobile device management, so that they have single sign-on across all 47 of their internal apps, right? So in that case, WAN Mobile is available in their internal Apple Store. Mm-hmm. So we have the public Apple Store, and at these two clients where they have an internal Apple Store, an internal Google Play Store, we have a 5-star rating in both of those internal stores. So yeah, security is really, really important.
Right. And yeah, absolutely. So those are great tips at a high level. And of course, security itself is such a wide topic. You could spend an entire webinar on just mobile security itself, but those are great high-level recommendations. And I know we're running out of time, but just a couple of last questions. So one of the other questions is, here's the question. So
I get asked. A lot of time, again, so how did you choose a partner? Mm-hmm. And I'll just kind of, summarize that briefly, again here. So choose someone who's going to challenge you, because I went into the meeting with RoboSoft that I want to do hybrid and responsive. And then I came out of the meeting wondering, maybe I don't. And then 2 weeks later, I knew, I wanted to go native. Someone who can point to the 5-star ratings, in the Apple Store. And someone who would be a long-term partner. That was something I certainly would recommend. And maybe, I know the final question, I do get asked from time to time, well, how do you do, mobile QA? Is there any, efficiencies? Is there any ways that you can automate that? And then what I would say is, so the one thing we did automate, it works quite well, is on the back end, right? So it's all web services. And so whether or not it's going through our website, the web app, or it's going through iOS native or Android native, they all go through the same web services. And then we have a toolkit that we built ourselves that we can do those API web services testing and really flush out the business logic completely independent of the presentation layer. And then what I do have, it's not automated, but we do have specific skill sets who work great on mobile, and we get them trained up. And then for a period of 9 months, they'll work exclusively on mobile within QA because they're really, really good at it. Then from there, we'll switch around the people. Okay?
Okay. That's great. Thanks a lot, Ted, for all the insights that you provided today. And thanks a lot, everyone, for attending. We hope it was as fun and informative for you as it was for me here today. And we will send out a recap of the entire webinar along with the webinar recording to all those who registered. And so you can look forward to that coming your way shortly. Okay, thanks everybody, and have a great day.